Hello and welcome to our live event, and we're going live in the Facebook group Women Healing from Emotional Abuse with Power, Passion and Pleasure. And we're also here on YouTube for those of you watching on YouTube. And my name is Ailsa Kepi. You can find out more about myself, my coaching, my programs, my blog, my podcast, all sorts of things that I'm up to on my website, www.pleasureforhealth.com. So for those of you joining live, today's talk is on keeping agreements with ourselves. How important is that? And I'm just going to let you sit with that question for a moment and reflect on your own experience of honesty with yourself. How much do we really keep our own agreements? And I don't just mean our January 1st, okay, I'm going to make a New Year's resolution and we know we're going to let it go by February. This is something that happens on a micro level every day. And it's extremely important to our energy field and to our ability to be in integrity and in our ability to have good relationships with others, because how we deal with ourselves is what we're calling in. So what we have inside is what we're calling in from outside. So it's extremely important that we actually take a moment to take stock of whether we are being honest with ourselves, whether we're in integrity, and whether we are able to keep our own agreements. Because I know a lot of us, we come to the table thinking that everybody is betraying us. Betrayal is a big deal right now in our own personal, intimate relationships, in the world, with friends. And if we are one of those people that goes around saying, gosh, I wish someone would just be in integrity. I wish they would just keep their word and do what they say they're going to do. So that may all be true, and there is a lot of betrayal out there. But how much are we betraying our own self? And how might that be manifesting what is going on for us in the world? So I want you to look at, how we deal with our own agreements to ourselves. How often have you said, I'm going to change my eating habits, or I'm going to give up coffee, or, I'm going to give up chocolate. I'm doing something to help. I'm going to go for a half an hour walk every day. And how often do we actually keep those agreements? So I'm not here to shame you and say, hey, you're a crappy person because you haven't kept up your agreements. But this is something that we really need to look at, is that if we continue saying, oh, I'm definitely going to start going for a half an hour walk every day. And then the next day comes and it's raining. So it's like, well, it's raining, so I'm not going to go. And then the next day, you have a long day at work, and so, oh, I'm really tired from work, I'm not going to go. And every day that goes by that we don't keep our agreement with ourselves, it gets easier to not keep our own agreement. How many of us have had that experience? Hands up. Because I definitely know that every day that I'm like, oh, well, I didn't go yesterday, I'll start tomorrow. That it gets easier and easier and easier to not keep our word to ourselves and to just let that go. So what this sets up, though, is this continual kind of lying and betrayal to our own self, because we know that a few days ago we promised ourselves to go for a walk every day, and here we are 3 or 4 days in and we haven't been for a walk yet. We know that we've done that, and somewhere inside ourselves that sets up this disharmony in our body and in ourself, in our energy. And so, next time when we say, okay, I'm going to start walking for sure this week, it's kind of like our, somewhere another part of ourself goes, yeah, right. Show me, And so we don't even trust ourselves. We don't believe in ourselves. And how much is that showing up in your relationships outside yourself? Because if you are having some relationships where with friends or intimate loved ones, family, where this kind of dynamic is showing up, where someone says, I'm going to come home for dinner every night. I'll be home at 5:00, and they're never there. And, how much is that showing up in your relationships? Because if it's showing up in your relationships, I guarantee that it's also showing up with yourself. And here's the thing. Can we actually change anyone else? Can we actually change anyone else? Not really. We can change our own self. So if this is showing up in your external relationships and you're frustrated with that, here's what we can work on. I'm not saying that, we let it go or it's not important to ask them to change. All of that is true. But the only person we can really work with is ourselves. So let's take a look at what we want to change and how we want to be in integrity with ourselves so that ripples out into our world and it makes our relationships better. If I say to myself, it's really important for me to get out of bed at 7 a.m. and, do my meditation or go for a walk or whatever it is, and I set my alarm and it goes off and I get up. The next day it's easier to get up, and the next day it's easier to get up. And I start feeling really good about that because I've said, I'm going to do this thing and now I'm doing it. And I have this integrity about that. And, not saying you can't have a holiday now and then, but be honest with yourself. And here's the other thing. If you have trouble trusting yourself, if you have trouble making these agreements with yourself and keeping them, you have to ask why. Sometimes it's about shame. Sometimes it's, well, I'm not worthy. Like if we've promised to walk every day, for instance, and this is kind of riffing off my own experience. Let's say I plan to go for a walk every day and I start balking at that. I don't do it. What is it that's stopping me? Well, for me, it might be stress about, can I really take the time for myself? No, I need to do something for my business. I need to do something for my kids, So I haven't actually acknowledged that I'm important, that I need to take time for myself. So this is a problem that I need to look at. So now if I turn my eye inward and say, well, hang on a second, I'm worth that half an hour in the morning. I don't need to start running around for everyone else right away. I need to do that for myself. This is an important starting point. Maybe it's, shame about the fact that, I'm out of shape and I don't want to walk, or I don't, whatever it is, those types of underlying beliefs that are stopping us keeping our word to ourselves are stopping us from experiencing trust and integrity in the world as well. So we really need to start looking at that. And it's not that difficult, really. Like the key is, if you make an agreement with yourself, keep it. That's it. And if you're not going to keep it, then don't make the agreement. This is also true. So if you know that you can't, if you're making a goal or an agreement with yourself to go to the gym every day and you know that you're not going to be able to do that, then don't make the agreement. It's that simple. If you know that you can make an agreement on a Sunday to go for a walk for 20 minutes, then keep it. You know what? The easiest way to start is making really small things. I work with women a lot that have had emotional abuse, and a lot of times they're really ashamed and angry with themselves because they don't leave an abusive relationship when they start knowing that they should. And so every time they go back to that, abuse, or every time they stay in that abusive relationship, they feel worse and worse about themselves. And they don't start building that integrity. So here's my idea. Take something really small, really doable. Whatever that is, I'm going to, when I lie down and get ready for bed, I'm going to take 3 deep breaths. Something that you can do when you go to bed every night. You have something by your nightstand, you take 3 deep breaths and you relax. Okay, I can do that every night when I go to sleep. I'm going to take 3 deep breaths before I go to sleep. And you start doing that. And the more that you keep that agreement with yourself, the easier it becomes the next day and the next day. And before you know it, it's a habit and you've kept your integrity with that. And now you can make a new agreement. I have an agreement that I'm going to call a friend every day and check if I'm being gaslighted in my relationship. If that, if you're in an abusive relationship, you might make something small. Don't go from 0 to 100, just start with something small. I'm going to check in with a friend every day. I'm going to make sure I reach out. Okay, that's something I can do every day. And I start making that agreement with myself and keeping it. Next time you say, I'm going to start going to a help group, like a self-help group for this. I'm going to speak up and book a call with Elsa about this. Then you start making these agreements with yourself and keeping them. You are building that integrity. And when you're building that muscle, and when it comes to the big things, you will have all of that integrity and all of that muscle behind you in order to keep your agreements. And when you start keeping your agreements to yourself, all of a sudden, it's really hard to lie to yourself about or be in relationships where you're not keeping agreements with the other person. You start becoming used to, hey, we agreed to do this thing every day. And that's, you start asking people to step up. So you can see how this starts rolling into boundaries, consent, communication, relational IQ, all these things that you start building that muscle with yourself, you start building the muscle with someone else. So really simply, keep your agreements. And so be aware of the agreements that you're making. And if you notice yourself saying, oh yeah, I'm gonna give up coffee this week. I'm gonna give up sugar. Even if you're just joking, there is no joking. Our body and our energy field hears every single word you state and every single thought. It has energy. So if you notice yourself thinking or speaking these things into your field and then not doing them, making fun, not doing it, ask yourself why and dig a little deeper with that. Maybe you need a coach to help you dig somewhere into that. Maybe there's some shame about that. Maybe you know that your sister's going to be really jealous if you start changing yourself. It's like you have a pact with, maybe you have this unspoken agreement with someone else to stay in unintegrity with yourself. If I actually have integrity and start doing this thing, this person's going to feel bad. So actually my agreement with that person to not make them feel bad is stronger than my agreement to myself. And those are types of things that you need to start looking for. And that's where a somatic coach, where someone, with relationship coaching might actually be helpful, because sometimes it's hard to know where those little catches, those hooks are. So notice if you're saying a lot of agreements with yourself. Notice if it's really hard for you to keep in integrity with yourself. Notice if you're having external relationships where integrity is a real struggle. And then take all of that information and see if you can start unraveling it for yourself. If you can, wonderful, start working on it. Something small, keep working on it. If you have trouble finding these things, but you want to work on it, this is where I highly recommend you reach out to me. I have a free option for a call. Reach out to me. Let's talk about your situation. Let's get really clear about why it is that you're having trouble being in a good relationship with yourself. And let's get you on the road to a better relationship with yourself and with others. So book a call with me, www.ailsakeppie, AILSAKEPPIE.com/apply, APPLY. You'll get straight to my booking calendar. I have a few sessions open every week to talk to people just like you who really want to make a change, who really want to get clear about why they're sabotaging themselves and how they can move beyond that. If that sounds like you and you're ready to do that work, book a call. It's absolutely free, no obligation. We'll talk for an hour. We'll get really clear about your situation. And even from that 1 hour call, you're going to feel like so much more clarity about what's going on for you. You're going to have so much more creativity and oomph and positivity to move forward just from that one call. I promise. People have said that to me many times. This call is transformed me already. And if you don't choose to plunk down money and join my program and all the things, you are so blessed, and I am completely okay with that. I am here. My life mission is to help people to be in integrity with themselves and to be in right relationship. So That is my life purpose. If somebody chooses to invest and work with me, they're going to get a ton more out of that. They're going to be able to exponentially speed up and improve their ability to be in relationship. But if you're not ready for that yet, don't hesitate to do the first step. It's like what I said about integrity. Take one step, do that. Once that's done, you'll see the next step will show up for you. If that's working with me, great. If it's not working with me, wonderful. And so, but if you never take that first step, you won't get to see what the next step is. So please reach out. You can find me from my website, pleasureforhealth.com. You can find me in the Facebook group for women if you are female identified. Women healing from emotional abuse with power, passion, and pleasure. You can find me here on YouTube under Pleasure for Health. You can find me straight to my booking calendar at ailsakepi.com/apply. So please reach out one of those ways. Tell me how it's going with your integrity practice. And if you would want some feedback, you want some input, let me know. I'm here. It's been great talking to you, and I hope that one of your integrity pieces might be to watch another video here on YouTube, and let's see if we can get you on the road to better relationships, to more pleasure in your life, and to being in integrity. Because it feels so great when you know that you can trust yourself. It's the best feeling in the world. All right, take care, everyone.